Okay, so hi again. Thanks for coming. I'm Janice. Hi, Ida. Um, so when actually, it's funny when I was talking to Amy about doing a class in general before I did the Tefillah series. This is actually the topic that I was sort of wanting to do, and then Amy said, "Oh, a bunch of people were asking for Tefillah, which is great." So then we did that, which I hope everyone enjoyed who was there. But this is actually this topic, which I'll tell you what we're doing now, or if you saw the title, I'll explain a little bit more, is really something I really wanted to do for a while. Like it's something that I wanted to do the preparing for, that I found interesting. So I'm excited to do this. We titled the class God and His Land, the connection between the Jews and Israel. Really what the goal of the class for me and what I want to sort of learn together with you is I want to look at, excuse me, the Tanakh and instances in the Tanakh where we see either a person or an event that's connected to, in some way or another, to the land and to Israel, and to see like what's so important about that. Why does the land have to be a part of that? Important to that. So, what I wanted to start with is going over a general brief overview of, like, when I say brief, I mean like very brief, like a few minutes of each of the Svarim in Tanakh, and in a sentence or two, talk about how they are connected in some way or another to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so the first one obviously is Bereshit, right? And in Bereshit, it starts with, and this is going to be a little bit of a focus tonight, it starts with the world itself being created, and from Adam HaRishon through Noah, through Dor HaFlaga, through Abraham, building up the nation and connection. Oh, by the way, I should say this. If anyone has any questions, send in the chat and I'll send after, or unmute yourself. And I just thought it's a series. I'm not exactly sure how many weeks it is because the SCA is sort of figuring out frontal, not frontal, Zoom, not Zoom. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Could mute everyone who's ever
Okay, no,
not mute.
yeah, let's go straight to school.
Who's not muted? I see someone's not muted. I don't know. Okay, anyway, I don't know who's not muted, but okay. So basically, okay, so sorry, I had to sidetrack. So the Bereshit is basically the covenant with the land through the Avot, through Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, building up to the importance of that and why we have covenant and all that. And then we essentially end up in exile, in Galut. Then in Shemot, the whole book is about us being in Galut and how we are redeemed from that Galut, and how Hashem saves us. Then we get to Vayikra, which is about basically, primarily the Korbanot, other things too, but basically things that need to be done in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Then Devarim, we get to where it's Moshe's final words to the nation before they enter Eretz Yisrael. And then we get to the Nevi'im Rishonim. I'm going through this very fast as a general overview. Part of what the goal of hopefully this series will be going through those things in detail, so you'll see what I mean. But I want to give an overview first. Then we get into Nevi'im Rishonim, which is Yehoshua, which is all about capturing the land. And then Shmuel Melachim, about building the king, the Malchut, the monarchy in the land. Then we get to Nevi'im Achronim, which is basically how we lose the land. And then in Ketuvim, there's a lot of different small stories, so each one's connected in its own way. And just an example, like Ruth talks about the Galut and Geulah of one specific family. Echa talks about losing the land when the Mikdash is destroyed and the land is destroyed. So basically, my point of, I hope that was I know that was a little bit quick and that was probably over some people's head, just probably went a little bit fast. But my point is that it's shown throughout the whole. The whole Tanakh is somehow woven to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so tonight what I want to focus on, well, today, for those in America, I'm in Israel, but whatever time it is, in this lesson, what I want to talk about is it's not really connected to Eretz Yisrael in general. It's more of a general overview of land and what that means itself. So let's talk about Bereshit for a second, okay? The creation of the world. So God creates the world, right? And the first thing we see when he does Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, and then it talks about the Aretz. So right away from the get-go, we see there's these two realms, Shamayim and Aretz, and we go only about the Aretz. So that's a very telling point because it's showing us that as humans, as humanity, there's this Shamayim, this spiritual realm, however you want to call it, this heaven, I don't know, however you want to define it for yourself, but this godly realm. And we are in the Aretz, in this physical realm. And that's really what everything focuses on. We're not asked to be in that realm, we're asked to sort of be in this realm. And when he makes the land, I'm not going to talk about creation itself, but I'm going to talk about Adam, okay? And when he makes Adam, before he makes Adam, he's making everything. And then it says, hold on, let me share my screen. It's some sources, so you could see them. It's better. People are visual if they want to see the sources. Where is it? Hold on. Let me get the source. 1 second. Why can I move this? Okay. So here, it says, "Vayikach Hashem Elokim et no, not that. Here. So God makes the land, and kol tiach hasadeh terem yeh ba'aretz, and everything is, he builds all the potential, and the ki lo yamtir Hashem Elokim hal haaretz v'adam ayin la'avod et ha'adama. A man wasn't yet working the land, so things didn't grow to potential. And then Vayitzar Adonai Elohim et Adam afar min ha'adama. So what happens here? What happens here is God makes all this potential in the world, and he sets up Adam to be the one to actualize it, okay? And what does he do? He takes the Adam, and it's called Adam from the word Adama, ground, sand, earth. He takes the Afad, he fashions this man, and then Vayipach b'apav nishmat chayim. So we have this physicality, but also we have this nishmat chayim, this spirituality that's linking us to God, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So now what happens? Well, I'm going to skip, over a bit. It talks about that God Himself says, "Lo tov hiyot ha'adam levado, aseh lo ezeh kenegdo." It's not good for man to be on his own. He needs a partner, an ezeh kenegdo. And then we have the next two psukim about God telling Adam to name the animals. And then when Adam himself, right, Adam lo matza ezer kenegdo, when Adam realizes that he didn't have ezer kenegdo, then God makes the ezer kenegdo, and God makes the woman. So it's just a very interesting dynamic, because if God's creating all this potential, he's almost waiting for man to say, I need to actualize it. And here we see, and I think this is also the connection of the Adama and the Nishmat Chaim, is that the Nefesh Chaya is that God is running the show, obviously. God's the creating, but he's making room in whatever way, philosophical way you want to deal with that, but he's sort of making room for man to be a partner in that creation, to be involved with him in that creation, and waiting for him to actualize certain potentials. And then we skip over to the sin, okay, to etzadat. And we see when Adam does the sin of etzadat, we see that the whole punishment is all connected to the land, okay? So the Aretz, the Adama. So now we'll see here, I'll get the sources. So here, where is it? Here. So it says, because okay, the land itself is cursed because of you, of your sin. And then it says, he says, your whole life you're going to be working the land for sustenance, for food, until the day that you die, when you're going to go back to the land, right? So, and that because that's where you came. So it's this whole cycle of land. You were made from the land. The land is cursed because of you. You're going to work the land, all that. And then we see something interesting. We see the first galut, the first exile, right? The Adam and Chava were in Gan Eden, right? The ideal land, and they get kicked out. Okay, they get kicked out, and now I want to talk about that for a second because before I talk about that for a second, it says when God put Adam in the land in Gan Eden, it says le'ovda u'lishamra, to work and to take care of and to lishmor. Why am I forgetting the English word? To guard, to watch over, to allow for it to flourish, almost, right? And when God sees that he can't do that, then he kicks him out, and he's not allowed to be there anymore. And I think, and this is something that is something to think about, and that I think I spoke about a little bit in Yom Ha'atzmaut class, that galut is not just is there with a purpose. It's there so that we're kicked out, so that we to learn a lesson, right? It's not just for no reason that God decides to kick him out. So what's the lesson that God is wanting Adam Harishon to learn from being kicked out of Gan Eden? And what I think the lesson is that he wants him to realize that, yes, I want you to be a partner in this with me, but you're not an equal partner. I'm still God. You still have to abide by the rules that I'm setting out for you. And if you're not able to do that, then you can't be on this level with me. And you have to be on a more Adama level than you were initially, right? Because in Gan Eden, it was a much less physical space. They were walking around unclothed, and it wasn't a problem because there was not this problem of my body and my physicality. It was all sort of more even, an even playing field of spirituality and physicality was on the same page, and when they eat from Etzadat, they lose that, they break that because they're not listening. They didn't listen to God, and they're saying that, they want it to be godly, and they want it to be on that level, when no, that's not the goal. The goal is to be to facilitate it, but not to try to usurp it, which we'll come back to that theme in a little bit. Then we fast forward a little bit, and this class, by the way, is a little bit, not, like I said in the beginning, it's not necessarily about Israel, but it's more of the background of land, connection to physicality, and all that in general. Then we get to Noach, and Noach's a very interesting person. Before Noach, we get to Cain and Hevel. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole Cain and Hevel and why, and just the background of the story. Cain and Hevel both are the sons of Adam. They bring the korbanot. Hashem takes Hevel, Zadan takes Cain's. Cain kills Hevel. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing because it's not so straight out what exactly happened there. There's a lot of midrashim on it, a whole other class. What I want to focus on again is his punishment. Because in his punishment, we see that it's also, again, connected to the Adama. Because also, by the way, I'm just sharing the screen a second. Hold on. Why isn't it letting me do it now? Wait, why isn't it opening this? One second. Hold on, why is this? 1 second. Share screen. Here it is. Okay, sorry. Where is it? No. Yeah. So it says Cain. This is after Cain kills Hevel, and he said, first of all, Cain is called an Ish Adama. Oved Adama. Sorry, not Ish Adama. Cain Haya Oved Adama. So he was also very connected to the land, which we'll get back to in a minute. And when after he gets killed, God says, again, Adama. Arurata min ha'adama. You're cursed from the land. The land itself is almost cursing you, right? Kita avod et ha'adama. You're going to be working the land. Again, this connection to land, working the land. And nabanati ba'aretz. So it's just this running theme. And then we get to Noach. And it says, the sin, right? What happened? Tishachet ha'aretz l'fnei Elohim et melei ha'aretz chamas. V'yira Elohim et ha'aretz v'hinei nishacheta ki yishrit kol basar et kol ha'aretz. So it's talking about aretz. We only hear about the basad. It's the whole structure was falling apart. Sorry, it was falling apart. So in Noach we see, which is very interesting. Hold on, how do I stop? Why don't I want to stop the screen share for a second? Why did I lose that? Yes, stop share. Okay. Someone's not muted. Hold on. I don't know why. Okay. Who's ever not muted, if you can mute yourself. So then with Noah, right, we see that after the Mabul, right, God decides because of the sin, he's scratching the whole thing, he's destroying the whole, he's wiping out the land, and what happens is we get to the first brit, we get to the first covenant, and it's very interesting because with Adam, God doesn't give a brit, he gives him like, this is what you're doing, right, Lavdal Shamra, he doesn't necessarily give him does a personal brit with him. He gives him commands, he gives him guidance, but he doesn't give him a brit. Now, after the Mabul, right? So Tisha'et Haaretz Hamas, we have the Mabul. God takes Noah, and then after he does a brit with Noah, and the brit again is connected to the land of Pri'urvu Miluat Haaretz, right? And he says it's a very general. Here, I'll share it with you if you want to look at it. But it's a very general brit. It's a very general. It's not nothing. It's really not so specific. It's very general to humankind and mankind in general. What is it saying? He's saying that you're going to go inhabit the earth. You're going to be the highest on the food chain, right? All the animals are going to be fearful of you. And I'm not going to destroy, right? I'm not going to destroy. Lo ye'od mabul lishachet haaretz. I'm not going to destroy the land again, right? It's a bri with the land, right? Basically, I'm not going to destroy everyone. And even this, the et kashti natati ve'anan vayita leot berit beni uben haaretz. The brit is not with it's beni uben haaretz, right? It's with Noah, but it's so entwined with the fact that he's not going to destroy the land. And vayita kesh banan is called kol alam kol nevesh kol asar asher al haaretz. And he makes his brit with Noah. So the brit here is really just not just, but it's talking about creating a justice. Hold on, someone. Is creating a society of justice, of order, right? Because the whole thing was Hamas before, was how everything was chaotic, and that's what God wants, structure. So now, so even it's interesting to see that God didn't choose to just make some plague to kill out the people. He destroyed the land itself, right? Again, this whole connection, intertwined, land, people, it's like almost one, right? And what's interesting is, also, I just read this this morning actually, but I didn't count it, but the Brit in the whole section of Noah is mentioned 8 times. If people are into this, I just thought it was a cool little factoid, that the Brit is mentioned 8 times, and we do Brit Milah on the 8th day. So I saw that in an article. I thought that was a cool little number thing for those that like that. I think it's interesting also because you see that Noah's character is there's always, I don't want to go into this because it's also, again, a whole nother shiur in itself of Tamim Haya B'Dorotav, whatever. And I just read something nice. I totally recommend this book, Amitata Shel Torah. Recommend it. I read something nice, which I thought really explained it very nicely to me and also connects to what we're talking about, which is why I want to bring it in, is the attribute Tamim is they say Tamim haya b'dorotav, just in his generation. If he was in a different generation, it wouldn't be, or the opposite. Even in his generation, he was. And Rav Torsky, who wrote the book, he says the Tamim is the compliment and the insult, not his positive and his negative, however you want to say it, because in his generation, in the beginning, pre-flood, the Tamimut was what was needed to protect himself, because he had to isolate himself from the Risha'im. But after, when God says, and God himself, hold on, which page is it? I want to make sure where is it? 1 second. Where God himself makes the change after the Brit, and he says, I'm not going to destroy the land anymore, right? Noah was also supposed to make that change and cut people some slack and be more involved in the world, right? And be more involved in building the world and not be so isolated. So what happens is that his isolation and stepping away from the people And the land, and not going out and populating the land, is his salvation and his downfall afterwards. Because after the Mabul, we also see, by the way, Noah is also called Ish Adama after the Mabul. And he's not Vaitah Kedem, he makes a vineyard. So instead of going out and building and doing Pruud Rule like God was saying, and being involved in the new creation, he was supposed to start from scratch on this new Adama. But instead, he's insular and he's Natah Kedem and he stays within himself, and he sort of misses the mark, Noah. And so I think that with Noah, we have to realize is that there's a balance between knowing when to. With Adam also we see that Adam goes on the I want to be godly, I want to totally be equal to God. And Noah is sort of saying, I don't want to be involved in that partnership, even though he's asked and he makes a brit, even though he is involved in that brit, right? And God's making this brit with him, he doesn't really get involved in the way that God wanted him to and expects him to. Okay? So what he does instead is stay insular to himself. Okay? And instead of being part of rebuilding the world. Okay, so before I go to the next thing, I want to just do a little backtrack for a second. Adam, right, is Adama in level of Adama. Cain is Oved Adama. Noach is a Ish Adama. And those are all things that need to be. We need to be in the Adama, but there also needs to be another balance in that of the Vayipachpo Nishmat Chaim. And I heard a great analogy just the other night, actually, from Jody, I always mispronounce her last name, Walpress, and she was saying how we have to think of it like, think of our physical, spiritual tension as a hot air balloon, okay? How the balloon is always gonna go up with the helium, right? But it needs a weight, it needs some sort of something to ground it so it doesn't just drift away. So the same thing with us is that we need to realize there's this constant tension of spirituality and connection with the higher realm, with creation, with being a partner with God, but also the Aretz and the Adama. And always remembering, like God told Adam, is that you came from the Adama and you're gonna return there. That's it, you know? And I think in our own day-to-day, we always have to sort of balance that with yes, there are physical activities that I need to go through in my day. I need to eat, I need to sleep, I need to, do all those things, keep myself healthy, exercise. But there's also a way to look at that as a way of connecting that to a spiritual side of making myself strong and connecting my physicality to connecting it to a spiritual thing to God. Okay, and I'm just thinking if I should. Yes, I want to talk about this a second also, with the fact that when you miss this mark, the punishment is exile, is having to leave the land, leave that connection. And I think it's like a little bit like a little simple mashal, a little simple analogy, but I think it really, and especially now, I think I've heard the analogy and I said the analogy other times, and I think now, especially in Corona times, we could relate to it, is that what's so special about the land, the place, and what's so bad about getting kicked out, right? So it's like, for example, is that you have a certain place that you and your best friend, or you and your husband, or whoever, or your child, whoever it may be, someone you care about, you go to this place to celebrate a milestone, everyone's birthday, you go to this restaurant, or you go to this certain park, or this certain, whatever it may be that you do together, this certain place that, someone has a birthday, someone graduated, someone got a new job, we're gonna go out to this place. And I think you especially feel that now, if anyone had any smachot in Corona time, even a birthday or something, it was hard not to go out and celebrate in somewhere special, right? So I think the same thing is that here we have our someplace special with God, which I'll talk more about with Eretz Yisrael, but here it's about just in general the land, the fact that we're physical beings, but we have to do it in a way that's connecting and elevating and making it special. And that's why I think Adam has to be kicked out, Cain has to be kicked out, and I don't know if I want to start this because it's going to be a whole long thing, and Yeah, I could start a little bit. We'll see how far we get with it. We then get to after Noah. We're almost at the reason I'm going through all this now. I think it's all pre Abraham, pre Am Yisrael. This is a human condition almost to be connected like this, to be balancing physicality, spirituality, the earth, right? Why do people, and I'm looking at Adele because she's a tour guide, what's so special about going on a hike? Like what's so special about that? Why is it so important to connect to the land, right? Like you could say like, oh, I could just, look on Google and type in nicest places in the world and look at a picture, or whatever. But when you go there and you experience it and you become one with it, humans are connected to nature, right? So because of this, because of our need to connect to land, to doing, to physicality. Now, what's interesting is, that, and I'm saying all this pre Abraham, pre Am Yisrael, pre the Brit with that. So we have one more story that seems a little bit out of place, but I think is very telling. And it connects, I think this story, which I'm going to say now, connects the Adam, the Noah, the Cain, and then will lead us into Abraham. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions, comments? Write in the chat or unmute yourself before I move on. Does anyone have anything to say, or let me know if I should move on? Okay, so I'll move on. We get to the story of a very enigmatic story of Migdal Bavel. Okay, now Migdal Bavel is a very weird story because most people that know about the story have a negative view on it, but we don't really know what's so negative about it when you look in the Psukim. Okay, so what happens in the Psukim? In the Psukim, right? I'm just going to open it for myself. I'm not going to put it on the screen because it's a whole. But in the Psukim, we see there's this nation, right? Not this nation, this group of people, excuse me. And what they do, they want to build a tower to get to God, right? They want to build a tower to get to God. And they all have one language, Devarim Achadim, and they want to make a tower to connect and to says, so we shouldn't spread around, Pen Nafutzu, right? And Menaseh Lanu Shem, so we have a name, right? And God comes down and he sees us and he doesn't like it. And he decides to disperse them. But we don't really get, like, what did they want to do that was so bad? Well, and the Midrashim have a lot of negative things to say about them. But what was so bad about them, right? What was that God goes down and he said, I don't like this, and he spreads them out, right? And then and they didn't make the city. Okay? So it's a very weird story. When you look at it on a deeper level and you connect it to all we said so far today, is we see that it was a problem because what happened here? God wants us, humanity, right, to be a partner with him in building and creating, right? He tried to get Adam to do it. Adam sort of missed the mark and said, I want to be just like you and not be a partner with you, and not realize that you're above me. No, Cain really, he brought in murder in the thing. He wasn't with it. Then we have Noah, who could have got the mark, but then he was too in the other side. And then we get to the Migdal Bavel, right? We get to about these people. And what they want to do doesn't seem so bad, but what's the problem here? They want to stay insular. They don't want to go out and spread humanity to the world and godliness to the world. They want to do Naseh Lanu Shem, right? They want to make themselves a name and not necessarily build up with God and have a partnership with God. It's all about them. It's all about the selfishness of them. And God says, it's not really a punishment almost, but he's sort of not allowing that to happen because he doesn't kill anyone. He doesn't do any destruction. He spreads them around. He's saying, you want to stay insular and not grow the world. I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen and spread you around. And I think, and this is something that I found, I think it's important to realize that the Pshat doesn't really call them out as so negative, right? We don't really see that it's such a negative story. And I think because the idea of unity and building a nation together is not a negative thing. I think it's negative in how they were using it. So I don't think that it was trying to show that goal of unity and building is a negative thing, But what they were doing, being so stuck in themselves, that was a negative thing, that they weren't balancing the two. And I think it comes down to balancing. And there was also a nice quote, a nice idea. So that to them, so the whole point of the Mabul was to start fresh and to have people realize that we need to be partners, we need to create and not create havoc, right? There has to be order and justice and clarity and connecting to God in the world. And they missed the mark because to them, the flood was just something to deal with. It wasn't a lesson from God that they needed to learn from. And I want to also call them a little bit, what happened to them is a little bit of a galut, right? Because they were all spread out. And I think this whole scenario, right, is showing that we need to realize as individuals, we have to bring our unique elements. We have to bring our own physicality and earthliness to the picture. But we also have to balance that with what does God want of me? And what am I connecting those skills of mine to my godliness, to my spirituality? And I think that this is why, which we'll talk about next time, is I think that we'll talk about next time with Abraham and why he was chosen and what he did and how that all connects to the land. And I know this was about the title is about what was I forgot the exact title, how God's connection between the Jews and Israel. And I think I felt a need to talk about all this first because I think you need to realize where we came from. And even in the what's it called, in the Haggadah, we talk about like you have to always know what the start was. So the start was here is that there was this idyllic Gan Eden life that we were supposed to live that we messed up. And then there was this reset almost of the Mabul that God tried, but we didn't follow through until Abraham, which we'll talk about next time. So what I really hope that we see is just realizing is the land, and again, like I want to talk about in terms of especially now, is being outside of the foreign world, being in the land, being connected to the earth, being connected to physicality is a very important thing. And there's a time and place for hitbodedut, for your own spirituality, but there's also a time and place for going out into the world, into the Adama. Now next, so basically someone asked, is this a series how many weeks? I honestly don't know the answer to that because the SCA was running the summer program and they want to ideally do it in person in Deal, but now they're doing Zoom because of Corona and what's going on. So as long as they're doing Zoom, I'm doing Zoom and hopefully it will continue. I hope you enjoy this, but my goal basically, just a little teaser for the next, is talking about Abraham and obviously his being chosen and being given a brit of the land and being more, this is all general, this is land. Next time we talk about Abraham, you get to the land of Eretz Yisrael specifically, and then we're going to talk about why that's so important. And basically what I want to do is go through different characters, obviously the Avot, and different people that we'll see of how they connected and related to the land and why that's so important to us. So I'm going to end here now. I hope everyone enjoyed. If anyone has any comments or questions, please let me know. I'm going to put my my info in the chat. If anyone has, I have obviously my own outline of where I want this to go. But if anyone has a certain instance in Tanakh or a certain person in Tanakh that where they feel very connected to Eretz Yisrael and they want to talk about that, so please feel free to send me a message about that. Yeah, thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Thanks.
Thank you. That's great.